Fruitarianism and spirituality. Are there many of you here, like all of you who have tried living like totally raw, 100% raw, fruitarian, not like strict, I mean you could have eaten some nuts or greens and stuff, like, but 100% raw over say a 6 month period of time? Anyone here try that, like full on? Okay, that's quite a few. I suspect that if you were doing some kind of meditation practice or some kind of spiritual practice, I suspect that you experienced some differences in that too. But yeah, maybe not all of it. I'm not saying that you should do that. It's like mandatory. And I can first talk a little bit about myself. Am I speaking loud enough, by the way? Mm-hmm. Yeah. My spiritual journey began at the beginning of time, like all of us, whether we were aware of it or not. Yeah. And in this life, I think the first like obvious signs of my spirituality or my ability to see beyond the material, like behind the material curtain or behind the behind the limitations of this construct, time and space. It was when I was about, I think, 3 or 4 years old, maybe 4. I told my mom that in my previous life I had a much nicer mom. That was harsh. But I don't know. Yeah, that's what happened. So it probably was a bit. She's told me afterwards that it was a bit like she got some chills down her spine and stuff like this. It was a bit unexpected, I guess. And with nicer, I don't know what I meant back then. Maybe, I don't know. I have no clue. Maybe she had just not given me what I wanted that exact day, the candy or whatever. I have no clue. I don't remember much. Also, ever since I was a kid, I would feel the life force, like the energy on myself, and my surroundings. Like I do now, I just put my hands out like this, and I feel the ki, the chi, the prana, the life force, the whatnot. If I reach it out to him, I can feel his energetic presence, his aura. I can feel his, like where there are blockages or like holes in the aura, for example, and stuff like this. When I was a kid, I usually just used it to find things because I sensed when I thought about things, the energy would go to that thing. Like when you think about something, when you feel something, you are creating an energetic field. So I was like, oh no, I lost this little screw, like out on the lawn somewhere. It fell off the lawnmower, right? So I need to find this, and that's impossible. That's totally impossible. Like you need a metal detector or something. So I was maybe 5 years old, maybe 6. So I would just go to one corner and I would be like thinking about this thing, seeing it in front of me, and just putting a lot of feeling into it, put my hands out and just turn around. And when the buzzing got stronger, that was my direction, right? And go to the other corner, do the same thing. Okay, we have a pointer. Oh yeah, there's this screw. Right? They're very practical. So it's kind of like that. Then of course these things are not really accepted in general, like society for the most part. I think a lot of people are aware of something like this, or they believe something, they've had some experience, but it's not really accepted to talk about it openly. So I didn't do that much. And then life came along, all the difficulties, and I just kind of shoved everything to the back a bit. And then I was was a bit older and I started doing martial arts, and with that also more meditation. And with the meditation I noticed, because I also went vegetarian, I stopped eating meat. And aside from all the health effects, just kind of energetically, I was in meditation, my ability to change my state of being really changed. I was much faster at reaching a higher or a more connected state of being, like awareness. And with the martial arts, it also really helped me, because I would just use it. Like someone attacked me from behind, I just step to the side. This is something that in that martial art we actually train. But for me it was very easy, because I was already sensing so much. And I also had to learn to sense what was my emotions, my energy, and other people's energy. Because this easily gets mixed up. We flow into each other and we're like, oh, why am I feeling so sad all of a sudden, right? And then there's this sad feeling person standing behind us or something like this. So with the martial arts, I was just becoming more and more aware of these energy, these emotions, these things going on between us. And I would use them. I would just feel a person like, oh, there's a hole in his aura. It's probably sensitive there. Right. So very, very good, very effective in the martial arts too. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it might not sound very nice, but with martial arts, I mean, like I was not doing martial sport. I was doing martial arts, battlefield, like survive. You dance with your friend until he is dead. Basically, you destroy the body in different ways. That's martial arts. It's battlefield, and that might also sound not very nice. And of course, I don't go around practicing this kind of stuff. I don't go around killing people. But that is what we call Budo. So that's the warrior's way to enlightenment, basically. Bu as in warrior, Do as in the way to enlightenment. Kind of simplified. So it is about reaching more awareness through the arts of combat and war. Anyway, so I had my own martial arts club, and eventually, and the students would get injured, or either I would do something to them, or they did something to themselves, or so they would have pain, and then I realized, okay, well, I mean, I'm playing with all these energies all the time. I'm using it all the time to trick, to fool my opponent, to affect them, to sense what's going on. So why can't I just sense what's going on with this injury? So I was just feeling an energy. Oh, this injury. Oh, this energy. We just remove that. Away with that. Oof, gone. Okay, we fill it up with some good healing energy. We kind of correct the blockage that is there. And in many cases, if we get to do this really quickly before the physical injury really sets in, before it becomes kind of established in the mind, before it becomes a big bruise or bleeding or physical injury, and they manage to forget what happened, then it actually works really, really well. So that's how I started healing also. So I would like take my students, kick their ass, and then I would heal them. So that's kind of how I got into that. So that was some kind of energy transfer or energy manipulation kind of healing. Quite interesting. And by this time I had also turned vegan, and that also really increased my sensitivity. And with the speed with which I could change my state of being. Like I could, half a second I would just, and I was there, like in the zone, no thoughts, no disturbance, just balance. Of course, it also takes practice. Like you have to do this all the time it's like a muscle, you have to train it. But I noticed a huge difference with going vegan. And also combined with all the health benefits, I got, I also started moving towards raw, because I noticed the simpler the foods and the more alive the foods were, the better it went. So I was eating more than half my food, half my calories from fruit, and some rice, lentils, maybe some very simple foods back then. And this was about 23 years ago. I'm just trying to kind of stick to the timeline here so I can tell the story a bit. But it's very interesting how much of a difference it made to me, with the sensitivity and with the diet. Fast forward, life hit me again, lots of different stuff, stress, everything. So I pushed all this stuff more to the background, and also started eating more cooked food, still vegan but more cooked, because of my life situation, what I was in, and that's just what I chose to do. And then about 12 years ago, I kind of got out of that situation, and I just went straight back to fruit, and immediately noticed a difference by then my stress levels were super high, but I immediately noticed a difference in how well I could kind of heal, how well I could deal with it and move forward and accomplish some positive change in myself. Since then, fruitarian, raw, vegan, low fat actually, it's been a bit of a journey with the food, but what has always been clear is that the cleaner I eat, the simpler I eat, the less stimulants, also the less fatty foods. Like an avocado is not so bad, but there are much heavier fats also, like with the nuts and the seeds and everything. This also kind of slows down not just the body, but the sensitivity. And during this journey, I have then healed a bit more. I've gotten some help. I've finally come to a place where I am feeling pretty good, although of course I still have some ways to go, like always. If I was done here, I wouldn't be here anymore. I would be gone, right? So there is always work to do. But now I feel very good about that and happy about it, because it's a gift, it's an experience, and I know it's being done. I'm on my way. But with all the healing I've gone through, I have also, because I am or have been then quite sensitive to these things, it's come quite natural to me. It's not something that is special to me, because this is like inherent in being a living being in this reality, in this universe, or any world. And this is what we're made of, everything. Like this here is energy, and so are we, and everybody can do it. So it's not like I have this special gift or anything. It's just that I have had this experience, and I'm very happy to share it if it can inspire or help anyone else. So I received some healing, and I noticed this kind of healing, it was called spiritual healing. And I found it very, very powerful way of doing healing to solve all sorts of things. It can even be physical things, but mostly like things in our life and the way we create our experience and our lives, our relationships, our jobs, everything that we do. So I thought that I would like to do more of this myself. And so I learned this, I could say, way of healing or modality or like system, but it's basically just like a procedure, like the way I talk to universe, source, God, divine source, love, everything, whatever, however you want to define it or name it, because this connection I always had. And so I just learned way of talking through that with source, and that could affect really, really powerful healing, basically regarding anything, because we just choose what we want to work on, and then I use this procedure to do this. And that's kind of beside the point of this talk, actually, in a way, because we're talking about Fruitarianism and spirituality, or in my case, like this healing. If I have eaten any cooked foods, my connection with Source, and this is not something that I actually expected from the beginning, but it's something that I have experienced. My connection with Source just gets so much less clear, so much slower, and so much more difficult to work with for me. And when I am, like I am doing now, and doing for quite a while, like just living completely raw, it just makes a huge difference. So I always want to say, like, yeah, if you have a spiritual practice, I would advise trying to move towards like a completely raw diet and lifestyle, because the clarity, the speed is like, it's a huge difference. And the person who helped me a lot with my healing, and who also taught me this procedure to do this spiritual healing, she also noticed huge difference, and she had much more trouble than me, struggling with food addictions and stuff, and went back and forth. And basically, when she was eating cooked, she didn't even like to do healing because it was such a huge difference. And when she had been raw for a month or so, it was all just 10 times faster, 10 times more clear and easier to work with. And this is really what I have experienced too. So anybody who is like into stuff like this, or want to just meditate, work on their own awareness, sensitivity, I would really advise to try to move towards totally raw lifestyle. Yeah. And then of course there's a lot of road bumps or speed bumps on that road that everybody who's tried probably knows this. So that can be a challenge. But this is also something that one can do healing on, actually, to clear the deeply lying spiritual kind of soul level blockages or hindrances that has us react and live out in different ways that creates difficulties for us in what we want to do. But yeah, so that's a little bit about my journey to where I am now. Are there any questions?
I've done quite a bit of fasting and so on, but I've never done long periods of just raw. And I wondered how I always get into situations where my sensitivity increases. And the question I have is, how do you be around other people that are more violent or more harsher energies with other people? How do you keep from getting hurt?
Excellent question. My first experience with this, like my first conscious, aware experience with this, I think I was about 20, and I was sitting in this bar with my friend, and of course I wasn't drinking. I stopped drinking when I was like 14, 15. So yeah, I started it early too. So anyways, so I wasn't drinking, but I was in this bar and we were hanging out and just talking. I was sitting there, I didn't really notice, but suddenly she just stares at me and she laughs at me and she's like, "Rob, you're drunk." I was like, Am I? I haven't been drinking. Am I drunk? Yeah, I am drunk. I'm gonna go home now. So I left and went home and just went to bed, right? The thing is, I was picking up too many energies, and when people get drunk, especially, they also open up, they relax, they release their, inhibitions and stuff. So I suspect that even though it's damaging them energy-wise, they also let everything flow more. And I was picking it up. I got drunk. So then I was like, because of my mindset, my martial arts and everything, I was like, okay, so how do we deal with this? Yeah, I just block everything. I just keep to myself, but I still want to be open and kind of ventilating my energies and being connected, right? So I figured, okay, I connect with earth and I connect with heavens. Right? But when I want to be undisturbed in my energies in relation to other people, I will just block to everything going on around me. So, and this is just a thought and an emotion. If you can think it, that's like the beginning, right? And then you pull up some energy so that you feel it, you have an emotion about it, and you're just feeling that you're making a blockage around yourself, but you are kind of open to the heavens and the earth, and you can keep that, and then you are protected. And you can even just say to yourself, or you can say to the universe, I am protected. Thank you, universe, for observing this, right? And then it's like an affirmation that is reaching out also to the universe or reality around you. So yeah, that was how I do it. But now I don't really have to think about it anymore. It's become a part of me. So I don't really feel much. And when I was in these like 10, 15 years where I was under a lot of stress, having a really hard time in my life, and especially in the latest 5 years of that, I was carrying a lot of pain. I was carrying a lot of sorrow, and sometimes you meet people who, like I was doing when I was in my early 20s, I was just learning about this. Oh, energy, I can feel stuff. So I would feel people, I would feel plants, I would feel like everything, you know? And which is kind of disrespectful also, I think. you have to respect people's boundaries and privacy. But so when people come and try to, when I felt like someone was trying to feel me, I would be like, I would block it completely, you know, not because I was scared to show, but because I didn't want anybody to feel what I was feeling, because I was carrying such darkness, such pain. Right? So it can go both ways. You can block yourself from being affected by other people, and you can block so that other people are not affected or able to feel you. Yeah.
For me, sometimes it's more of I feel like the sadness, the sadness of other people, or the despair, the sadness of the world. You know,
yes.
Other people. Yeah, so it's something that can make me sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have experienced this too, quite recently actually. I mean, the world, depending on how you see it, you could say that the world is a pretty harsh and shitty place in many ways, and we are creating much suffering. But I also think that, you know, this is our freedom, right? We are free to enjoy, we are free to love, we are free to suffer. People say, well, if there is a God, why doesn't he come down and save all the children with AIDS, or, you know, like the starving children? Why doesn't God come down and save? No, but we have free will. And as long as we are collectively creating suffering, you know, we are going to do that. But we don't have to. But this is, of course, a very slow process, and because it's a large collective, right? And so I don't do it as a spiritual bypass thing, like where I can learn to just ignore the suffering and just, yeah, it's all spirit, we're all choosing, you know, they came down to this life to suffer and experience this pain. No, well, they did, but that is not a reason for me to not do anything or do what I feel should be done about it. But what I'm trying to say is that I get this perspective where I accept suffering. I accept the suffering in myself, I accept the pain and the sadness in myself, and I can also accept the suffering and the pain and the sadness in the world. And also, I don't want to create that anymore. So I will not go to a zoo where animals are kept in prisons. I will not eat animal products. I will try to not consume products that lead to suffering, exploitation of other people. Like if I am to pay someone to help me build my house, I'm not going to, if I have the power to do so, I'm not going to push their wages down to $3 per day, even if I can, because that is, that would not be like ethical, that would not be in line with actually creating happiness or what I want in this world. Okay, sorry, maybe I talked a bit much on that question. Any other questions?
So, do you walk through what you would do when things would get hurt? And you said vaguely that you would feel where the energy and the pain was, and you would go and put some healing in.
Yeah.
Could you go into a little more detail on that?
Like I feel the energy in my hands. Like if I may feel like I can feel you, I can feel your energy, I can feel your attention right now. And it's the same if you hurt. First of all, there is fear, because pain is the worst thing about pain is usually fear, the fear of the pain. So there will be like an emotional blockage there, and I just feel, I can feel like pressure of the energy field of a person in my hands. It's like I feel this. I can feel there are grooves, I can feel there are grooves in the energy, just by how it, it's difficult to describe. But most of you were doing the breathing before, and you get this buzzing feeling in your hands, in your body. So that is a really good way to connect with feeling this energy. Practice that often, these breathing techniques and meditation on that, and then start playing with it. Yeah, this buzzing feeling is just there, but can you do something with it? Can you make it stronger as you wish? If you put your hands together and push that buzzing feeling out of your body, out of your hands, can you feel something happening? Like, play with it. I mean, and then it's like when you start feeling and you just feel in your body, it's like digging in sand. Then it's like, oh, here it feels different. Okay, I will just take that out. Just take that out. And don't get stuck to anything, because this is also a mind thing. You can be like, oh, how do I get rid of this bad thing? Just put it on fire. It's gone. It's burnt. Right? And then you just, with your intention of healing, you bring up emotions of love, compassion, and you direct that kind of energy out of your body into whatever you want to do. Now if you do it this way, and you do it a lot, you're going to empty yourself. So that's what I did, because I didn't learn this from anybody. So I was just experimenting, and then eventually I would be like, I was at this event, and we were doing healing, I was healing a lot of people, and then I was like super tired, and then I was like, okay, I need to do this differently. So then I started channeling energy instead, just taking it in, and not actually drawing on myself. So I mean, you can do anything in any kind of way, you just have to try to find good and smart ways, right? So you don't harm yourself. But did that answer your question? Okay, cool. Anything else? Any more questions? Well, since I went back to it, like 12 years, and then not always totally, of course, it's been a bit like the last 6 years, maybe I have had like a couple of cooked meals, like every 2 years, or like after 1.5 years or so, but it's always a mistake. It's always a lesson. It's always an opportunity of learning.
Do you feel like reading that important?
It depends. With fruit like this, yeah, I mean, stuff in it, plenty of greens, because it's going to help the transition. They have more mineral density, and it can help.
Once you're already broken.
Yeah. Some people go like, no, I'm fruitarian, like pure fruitarian, no greens, pure fruit. And then you have this purity thinking. It's the same with fasting. You're going to hurt yourself in the end if you do it. You need a sustainable lifestyle if you're going to sustain it. Right? And so I would never say like no greens, never greens. It's like the same with people who have been like raw vegan, fruitarian for 20 years, 30 years, and they have gotten to a place where they don't even need to eat all that much because their absorption is so good. Maybe they're also not actually spending all that much energy. They probably wouldn't come on up with me for a run that takes 1,500 calories for one run when they don't even eat 1,500 calories in one day. I mean, so everything, has to be put in the proper perspective. But yeah, so I would say just eat enough and eat plenty of greens. Like me, I live up in the north, in Sweden, Norway. Fruit is kind of shit, but it's still better than any kind of cooked foods. It's still better than steamed broccoli, right? So I just pound in extra amounts of fruit. It might seem like a brutal way, but it lets me stay raw. And lots of greens. What?
How do you pound it on fruit?
Well, in the beginning I was eating like 6 fruit meals per day and just keeping full a lot of the time, and my stomach grew bigger and bigger because it's very elastic, it will adapt. And now I can sit down and have like 1,500 calories of bananas in one meal like this, and I'm good. And so I only need like 2 fruit meals per day, and then some greens after. And about the greens, like the worse the quality of fruit, the more greens in general. Yeah. And don't be afraid of the greens. Don't do this purity kind of thinking like fruit. It's fruitarian. Should only be fallen fruit from the tree, and it's not very practical in most people's lives in the world today, I think.
Most long-term raw vegans consume a lot of greens. Like, I don't mean long-term fruitarians really that just are strictly fruit.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's kind of the sustainability aspect.
Yeah. It's the same with, you could say I do fasting almost every day. Maybe not so much here now because of the situation, but I usually get all my food in a 6-hour window. Even when working, my job is cargo train terminal with outdoors work in Oslo all year, like summer, winter, lots of snow and ice, heavy stuff like these big iron things that I have to throw around like 100 of them, and they weigh half as much as me. So it's like really heavy work all the time, and I am working harder than basically anybody there. I'm in better shape, even though I'm fruitarian. But so that would take some calories, of course. What were we talking about really? Kind of lost my. What?
Is it green?
Yeah. Well, fasting. And because I have gotten to this point where my stomach is so big, I can do that. But it's like you cannot tell someone who is trying to transition to raw now, you should do intermittent fasting because that's like super healthy, because then you get to rest your digestive system for most of not actually most of the day, because it takes time to digest also after you've eaten, but at least you get to rest your digestive system a bit. No, but actually resting your digestive system is not so important compared to actually eating enough to be able to sustain yourself. Yeah. So screw fasting unless you are stable, consistent, and able to eat enough. Screw any kind of fasting because it's just gonna take you down. Unless you do it for like a short period of time, you do like a couple of weeks fast, or you do this like 3-week fast or 4-week or whatever, like under supervision preferably, of course. But then you're still gonna have a really hard time to eat your way back from that on raw foods, unless you had transitioned completely to raw foods before. So I'm not so much for these quick fixes like fasting, but I think fasting is great. Yeah. So but it all has to be put in perspective, like in the correct, like in the correct way for the person who's going to do it. And unless you are acutely dying or something, unless you have like chronic fatigue syndrome or something, I would not recommend just going to fasting.
You would recommend it for someone with chronic fatigue?
What?
But you said you wouldn't recommend it for someone.
But I would recommend, sorry, wrong. I would recommend, like if you have something that you desperately need to heal from now, sure. But unless you have something like that you really need to recover from now, or if there's something acutely kind of hurting you, I would not recommend it. Like, go on a raw diet first. Yeah, eat totally raw for 2 years, 3 years. See what happens. Let the healing be slow. Do not go crazy on the healing herbs that are not actually healing you, but can trigger some responses in the body through stimulation in different ways. Like, you eat a bunch of cilantro, right, to get rid of the mercury, heavy metals. Yeah, the cilantro actually does not get rid of the mercury, but it shakes it up. It loosens it up from the body, so it starts circulating again. Right? And it's doing it on a larger scale, that then it becomes a problem of getting it out. Then you have to eat in certain ways and just hope that the body is putting it out in your colon and that you get to transport it out. Right? But also the people doing this, they will not be doing that because they're not even eating all that much. Right? Because they're fasting and all these things for health. And so this mercury is just going to be reabsorbed, it's going to, lodge itself somewhere else and maybe cause even more nerve damage. But if I speak about myself, I had these, it felt like kind of ants digging their way under my skin, in my legs, basically my whole life. And these weird nerve issues and shooting pains, especially in my hips. Just randomly, I could be walking outside and then suddenly almost falling because there was this pain in my hip, like kind of shooting me. And this, I don't really know where it comes from. I have a suspicion it could be like vaccines or things, because I don't remember it from when I was really small. But when I got a little bit older, like a few years into school, I know there were some vaccines and stuff, and I know that that's when it started. But it's like no proof. It's totally impossible to say exactly what it was. But what happened was that after a few years raw, it just went away. Right? So let the healing take time. Unless you're dying from it now, don't force it. Let the body heal in its own pace. So this goes against a lot of what many others are saying in the raw food community, but it also is in line with what some people are saying. And those who want to rush it, either they are selling something, like they're selling a retreat, or they're selling some herbs, or they're doing something to make money off of it, or they are pretty new in this themselves, and they have this purist thinking, like this, we gotta just heal, and they haven't even transitioned to raw completely in a stable way, but they want to take these medicines and these herbs to, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on, like in the ego. So we got a bit away from the spirituality kind of aspect of it all, but it's all good. It's all interesting. Anyways. Yeah. Are there any more questions?
I've read articles that say some food isn't good for you, like mushrooms, that you should actually cook them.
Yeah.
Have a list of things you avoid and things that are perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to eat mushrooms, well, mushrooms, they aren't human food. Right? No, they're not. We can't really digest them. No. We can find nutrients in everything. Like, we can just take any green leaf here. Here there are not many toxic things, but everything has nutrients. And a lot of greens or mushrooms or whatever can have quite a lot of some nutrients, but that doesn't mean that we should be eating them in our hunt to like get this huge amount of that particular nutrient. Now I would rather let the body heal and actually see that everything balances out, and when you start absorbing things properly, and fruits and some greens will do the job just perfectly without burdening your system, your body. You know. And the mushrooms, if you eat them raw, I mean, I have done it many times. They do not digest. They don't.
They come out just the way they went.
Yeah. Yeah. Cut them in really small pieces, you won't notice. But what I do notice also, there is some things going on there, like it can maybe be some sort of stimulation with mushrooms, because I notice I can become kind of addicted to them. Not as bad as bread, for example, made of wheat. We have the opioid peptides and maybe other stuff that really hits your brain, the opioid receptors, and get you addicted. Yeah, just like cow's milk and stuff. Yeah.
What role do you think food has played, like with children's sensitivity? For instance, like a lot of kids are really sensitive. They see things, they feel things, they're very connected. And then life happens, school and food and what's right and what's wrong. How much do you think the component of cooked food has to do with desensitizing versus all the other components? It happened, like the school system, TV.
Okay, yeah. Well, I would say that the cooked food, the salt, stimulating salt, the numbing bread and milk and whatnot, and spices stimulating, it will have a huge effect, distracting from the kind of natural state of a human being, a sensitive human being, a spiritual human being. We all have this spirituality. I mean, we are right here doing it. But I don't know how, like, I wouldn't dare to like grade how different things affect like in relation to other things, and I think it can also be very individual. Like we have a physical body, so, and we have genetics, and we have stuff passed on from our ancestors, our parents, so we can have different sensitivities to different things, and if something is totally stimulating to me and totally numbing, it will definitely have a bigger effect on me in regards to like kind of clouding my spiritual sensitivity, definitely. But everything will be able to affect this sensitivity, I think. Like all kinds of violence will have a negative effect. And that is also, like, comes down to just the language we use. Because none of us have learned really to use a non-violent language.
That once you start healing yourself, you can start healing like generational trauma in your like line. Have you heard of that? And do you think that like that affects, like once you start healing it, will it also affect like your parents, and how have you noticed that in your life?
Yes. You think about like emotional or spiritual healing. Yeah, definitely. Of course, one component is them just seeing me. I mean, first being very worried with me going vegan, you're gonna miss out on all these nutrients. You know. But then now, 25 years later, I mean, they have seen that, wow, this is actually really good. And raw, even better. So that's that thing. But there's also this energetically, like it does something. When you heal something in this life, you will heal everything that is connected to it. And okay, this is my personal, but I see also a lot of people agree. My experience is that time is also a construct, like the linear time. The way I see time is basically like an open field, like a space field, you could say. Like time and space is kind of the same. It's just that we travel through them in different ways, and so we perceive them differently. But so everything, basically there is no time, but everything is now. It's just that we're traveling through it. So when you heal something now, you will be able to affect yourself in the future, or in the past, or in a different life, or and all the beings who are so closely connected with you, with your family, they will also be affected. Of course, they have their journey, and they have their stuff to go through, but they will be affected by you. When you smile at someone, if I smile at her, right, she's gonna smile too. You know, it's gonna affect her, and it's the same way. So when you do the healing, you will actually. You don't have to like pull them out of the dirt. You don't have to like force them to change the diet. Just do yourself as well as you possibly can, and then you just let that beauty and that love just shine, and they are going to be affected whether they like it or not. Yeah, and this is also the way to do it. This is the respectful way to do it, because forcing someone, that is violence. Yeah. Even if, I mean, basically preventing someone from taking their life is violence, right? But you might want to do that anyways. I mean, you're going to have to make the decision if you have the opportunity. But, yeah. Wait, I can tell actually one thing, because it was quite recently, just half a year ago, that I really went hard into some specific healing about my darkness from way back, like thousands and thousands of years, eons back. And this was affecting me a lot, but I protected myself from it, in part by being in my ego and basically not seeing this stuff, just kind of. And so in a healing session, I had the intention to see all of me, to become aware of all of me, even the painful parts. And then these things started coming up, and the darkness is, I'm not going to go into it now, like what that was, but basically I had acted in ways that over like years and years kind of dimmed or killed the light in myself. So I had this fundamental feeling in my spirit that not only was I dark or bad or evil or something, but that, and not only was I born as a demon out of pure darkness, but I was the definition of darkness, right? And that's a tough one to see and to realize and to integrate. But when I started doing that, before this, way before this, like 25 years ago, I had also seen some things from different lives, like some memories in like these meditation sessions. And there's one life where I have been subjected to abuse, like sexual abuse, but I could also feel that I was like the abuser myself, like there is like this, you are both sides basically. And I could see that in this life I was a woman, and that woman was completely shut off, like emotionally. Like there was no joy, there was no life. She was basically traveling through life without living. You know, it was just kind of flatlining emotionally. It was all gray. But after I started seeing my darkness, integrating it and loving it and accepting it, and actually becoming more whole from doing that, and then suddenly I was on the phone with a friend, and I was talking about this, and we were talking about this other life that I had seen long time ago, and also quite recently. But this time I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking at this woman now from this other life. And my friend, she was like, yeah, but she's not like flatlining anymore. She's smiling. And I was seeing the exact same picture. So I was healing myself through and beyond the limitations of this life. Right? So that's amazing. That's a beautiful thing. And of course, if you have no concept of like spirit, or you don't believe in multiple lives or this energy or these things, then it's just gonna sound nuts. And that's okay. I mean, you don't have to believe, but if you can see that, if you can feel it, then it's immensely powerful. Yeah. Yeah. So just do your healing. Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you or have you had a relationship with like psychoactive plant medicines? And if so, how has that affected your spiritual journey and your journey to all these different planets, the unknown?
Yeah, I have only tried a little bit, and that's quite recently. So, because I turned away from all kinds of drugs, like when I was 15. I saw that I was not getting smarter from any of that, and my friends, I guess a couple are dead, you know, few in like prison, and it's not such a good thing. So I stayed clean. I stayed clean my entire life, except for when I actually when I got my because that kind of tears down the inhibitions and stuff. I wanted to see what comes up. And even though I am like sober and do not do any, I tried alcohol then, and it was not so dramatic. It was just this kind of strong up, you know, like 40% kind of. So it was just like this, not just drinking wine or doing anything like weird like that. And I did this with my students too when I graduated them to the black belts. You can question that, you know, but yeah, it served a purpose like that. But what was I saying? Yes, so I've been sober since then, 20 years or more. But then I tried ayahuasca once, and it was a ceremony of 3 days, but I did not have the opportunity to be the 3 days, only 1 day. And when I tried it, I was still then under a lot of stress, because there was a lot of this healing I'm talking about that I had not done yet. A lot I'm doing them now. I was very much in my head, like my ego trying to analyze, understand. So, and the ayahuasca wasn't really strong, like in psychoactive, not to me at least. So I just kind of tried to understand what was going on, and tried to see what was happening, what will it be like if I get to meet her. Because with ayahuasca you basically go on a trip, and well, you have a shaman, how's it pronounced in English? Shaman there? And he said, yeah, I mean, first time you do ayahuasca, I mean, most likely you're not going to meet her. She's not going to reveal herself. She's not going to spend time with you, basically, because maybe you're not ready, you're not, I don't know. And I was there like analyzing all the time, trying to see what was going on, instead of just feeling like I normally. So, but yeah, so I tried that, and only after the trip I realized that she was with me. I did, she was right there, and I have never felt so cared for. I understand they call her the mother. That is okay. And I would never encourage anybody to do this. It has to be a completely personal decision, and I would be like, yeah, if you're gonna do it with a proper shaman, like, and not just like you have to go by your intuition or gut feeling or recommendation. I would say do it in a serious way, because you usually then do it in a group, right? And all this shit is going to come out. Like I have been healing and throwing out a lot of entities. Like you take on energies and you also take on entities, like actually kind of living beings. And they can affect you in the most like tragic ways. And with me too. But it's nothing to be scared of. It's just that if you do like then Aya in a group and stuff comes out of you, well, the guy sitting next to me being like vulnerable and open is like, yeah, just dive in there instead then. So you need this good shaman who can actually stay on top of this and actually throw them out, cast them out. This is important, I think. I would never do Aya without that presence, without that support. And yeah, it's interesting. He also told me, because he told me in the beginning, yeah, you have a big head, he said. I was like, yeah, I know, it's so difficult, it's like so in control. And he said, yeah, probably won't be it, but this is what we're going to do, this is the sermon, and then afterwards, I was just sitting there and I told him that now I see it. Now I feel it. She's here. And she stayed with me for almost a week actually. And he was like, yeah, it must be because your body is pure or pretty clean. With the Fruitarianism and everything. And he said, when you drank the first cup, boom, she was there. So it really does make a huge difference. And I was not throwing up or anything. I was just lying there experiencing it, and only afterwards I started throwing it out, because it is poison to the body. I mean, it is harm to the body. There's no question about that. So it had to come out. I'm not going to digest that. I had to go through my entire system. And so then I threw it out. Yeah. And so actually, being in that experience with the psychedelics did not. I mean, I guess it can give you some lessons that afterwards you can learn from and increase your awareness or expand your awareness or sensitivity. But during, like under the influence, I felt like it was cutting off my connection. And I also did try a bit of psilocybin, like mushroom. I mean, I am really not about taking medicines, because I think the body should be given the opportunity to heal itself in the pace that is healthy for the body. If it was healthy for the body to heal in 3 days, it would do it, because it always seeks health. Right? And that would mean that if I just eat enough, so I have the energy and the materials to heal, then I would do it. No, it doesn't work like that. The body is really smart. We shouldn't try to manipulate or force it too much. But in this case, I figured, they keep saying that it can help you lower general stress of the nervous system. I've been in fight or flight for basically my whole life, you could say, but at least 15 years. Really bad. And so I thought, I will try this, because I'm healing now, I'm letting go, but I'm still feeling like I'm having physical difficulties and release, and my back is being triggered all the time. I can feel the nervous system is not as at rest. So I tried that, and during that influence, I was also completely cut off from my connection with Source. So maybe you can connect to something else. Maybe you can connect to some spirit, like Aya, Mother, or you can. I don't have much experience with this, but the people that I have talked to, who, like me, have a habit of really connecting with Source and going straight there, have also said that, during those influences, it is not spirituality in that way, that's for sure. It is something else. So I also would not recommend anything like that. And I will probably never do that again. And, so, not to be a hooper, but yeah.
Can you speak more on the shifts you notice with your spiritual practice?
Yeah, well, the main thing is just the ability to change the state of being. It's so much improved, like much quicker. Like if I am in meditation or healing and I ask Source, okay, so this problem or this intention we want to realize in this client, and what is the greatest hindrance or blockage, for doing that. Like under cooked foods, it can be like, it's so unclear. It's like your whole body, your ego, your brain, your nervous system, your sensitivity, your spirit, everything is kind of corrupted a bit. It's like you put a screen between you and the reality, like the spiritual reality. And you have to kind of look closer. It's kind of slow and unclear. It's just more difficult to get the answers. And when I'm on fruit, it's just, I asked I didn't have time to ask the question. I knew what I wanted to ask, but I did not have time to formulate the sentence. And there was the answer. That's the difference. So, yeah, big difference. And amazing.